Time now to take a look at our regular features. Let's start with our question of the day. And just taking a look, obviously, we saw this week, the BRICS Summit, 15th edition of it here in South Africa, in Johannesburg. And we're asking you this morning, now that it's all said and done, what are your thoughts on the BRICS expansion to now include 6 other nations, taking the tally to 11? Please let us know on Morning Live, that's on X, at Morning Live SABC, and you can also send us your voice notes, and we have that number for you, 078-459-1897, and please keep them short, sharp, to the point, 30 seconds or less.
Yes, I'm interested to find out what those responses are going to be, because I looked at those countries and I think there's just a commonality that they all have that I'm not complaining about. I like the oil. But it's also, I think, just realizing that resources are what makes us, right? Because I think for the longest time as African countries, we've taken for granted the resources that we have. And I was listening to an interview yesterday where a professor was speaking and saying they just have this piece of paper that is green and they come and they give it to us and then we give them gold. They can't produce gold. They can produce their green pieces of paper, which of course he was referring to the United States dollar. But they can't produce these minerals that we've got in these countries that now form part of BRICS. So it's an
interesting time. It's very interesting developments, and I obviously hope to grapple with this a little more with Professor Chris Landsberg in a short while, just to take a look at what this means. Where and how does this shift the needle for us?
If done right, it could be very beneficial, if done right. But let's now take a look at the trending topics we've got coming for you from X this morning. And the first one, we've already touched on it a little bit, Sakina, hashtag BRICS, and you were there as well.
Yes, it was quite exciting and, very interesting as well. There was a lot happening, not just, in the main arena, but also on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit. So a lot of discussions, a lot of bilaterals. Yesterday, China meeting with the African leaders, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in attendance as well, and his press briefing I attended, and very interesting. But again, nothing really new coming out, but I think there have been some seminal, potentially seismic shifts. So it all remains to be seen.
Yeah. All right, we'll see when it all gets into action and moves from lip service what will happen. Moving on into the next trending topic this morning, Zim decides 2023. Of course, elections were taking place in Zimbabwe for the past 2 days, and we saw the extension of the voting periods by an extra day.
I don't know.
Not a lot of Zimbabweans are interested in actually voting.
Seemingly not. But I've heard people talk about the futility of this exercise, and what they say is that unless there is real electoral reform in Zimbabwe, you are essentially wasting your time, because they feel that the election is rigged anyway. So the outcome is already determined, and therefore it's a waste of time and energy. You can't really argue very hard against that. If you look at a simple issue like the voters' roll and access to the voters' roll, you would imagine that this is something that would be widely readily available to whoever is contesting, and even just for us here, we take it for granted in South Africa, because you can go and have a look at the voters' roll at any given time. So simple things like that. Zimbabwe went to the polls. We await the outcome of that. There were problems. There needed to be extensions, but we'll wait and see what the outcome ultimately tells us, even though some would say we already know.
I would agree with those some. We already know. All right, the third trending topic we've got for you this morning is SAFA. Of course, SAFA making the news because we saw the technical director of SAFA, Walter Steenbok, one amazing football mind, speaking about how they're launching now a football academy, which will be named after the late Clive Barker. Clive Barker, and the main focus is just to educate South African coaches.
Which is a great initiative. But again, overall, coming back to sport and sports development, I think we need to just pull ourselves back towards ourselves. I got a little bit ahead of myself when this announcement was being made because I thought it would be something along the lines of, grassroots development more. But I'm not mad about, the coaching aspect of it, but I think there needs to be much greater emphasis on making sure that there are clear avenues for development to happen and for people to come through the ranks.
I agree.
So, yeah.
I 100% agree. And we'll see, what this means, because over the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of talks about coaches and the PSL don't have the necessary qualifications. You can coach in the PSL with a C license, which many people say that's a license you use for grassroots development and not coaching at the highest level of competitive football in the country. So
the way some things go, sometimes I feel I also want to coach, but anyway.
You definitely want to coach. Sakina definitely wants to coach because every morning she sits here and she's frustrated. I don't know what's going on there. You can assume where there
but
is.
You know what the thing is? The issue for me is, when a team, starts out with a new coach, you need to try and sense what is this coach trying to do. And for me, it's always a problem if I can't see.
You can't see the coach's philosophy.
What his philosophy, what his plan is, and it's just all up in the air. That bugs me all the time.
Guys, please fix the problems there. We know where there is. And finally, the last trending topic we've got for you this morning is #JubJub. Of course, JubJub appearing in court yesterday on the charges which have been brought against him, and 13,
yeah, several charges, including, I think there was
kidnapping, rape,
attempted
murder.
But serious charges, but
things
from
that
2010
happened years ago,
or even
2006
to 2010.
Yeah.
So but JubJub appearing in court yesterday, and as you can imagine, the Twitterati then taking to the Twitter sphere or the X sphere to make their thoughts known on this case.
And of course, as that unfolds, we'll keep you updated right here on SABC News. But that's how we leave it in terms of your trending topics. I think, is Leanne back next week? Am I fired? I may be fired from trending topics.
Who knows?
Next week,
Who knows? We might still need you on Monday.
All right,
So I ain't firing you just yet.
We'll see.
Leanne is back when Leanne is back.
Until then, I'll be here.